Hello YouTubers, Alaska Prepper here. Welcome to the bi-weekly news compilation video. And at the end of this video, I have some nice footage of what the interior of Alaska looks like way north of where there's any civilization. We took a little trip out there last weekend and I went ahead and included some towards the end of this video so you can see what it looks like out in the great expanse. Now let's get started because we have a lot of news to go over. There are two things that I feel have a very high probability of occurring that would take the United States into a systemic crisis. The number one thing that I think that has the most probability of occurring, and I could be wrong, ladies and gentlemen, would be some type of a financial collapse where our dollar plummets, where we can't really import the things that we need because the value of our dollar is so low. And of course, I don't know if you know, but we import about half of the oil or energy that we use on a daily basis. So not being able to do that because our dollar is so devalued will be a big problem, but not the only problem. There will be a lot of internal problems as well. Not only, again, would we be able to import those things that we can normally go and buy right now anytime we want, we would still be able to import them in a way, but it's going to cost an awful lot more, and people are just going to be living hand to mouth. The second thing is a grid down situation for any reason. It could be because of the sun, it could be because of a cyber attack, it could be because of an EMP, whatever the reason may be. It's going to be the second reason that I feel has the most probability of occurring here in the United States. What would you do if the power grid where you live went down and there was no electricity for an extended period of time? You might want to think about that because experts are warning that this is just a matter of time before cyber attacks successfully cripple our power grids. Now, not only are they saying, they're experts saying that this is just a matter of time, it's not if, but when. But ladies and gentlemen, take nature into consideration as well. Those same experts have said, hey, it's only a matter of time before the sun spurts out a big plume of energy that heads towards Earth at speeds which will pretty much collapse our magnetic field momentarily, letting all of that energy in and crippling our power grids as well. Not for a day or two, but for months, if not years. They say that, in fact, foreign hackers are working hard to infiltrate critical infrastructure. When the U.S. ends up fighting a war with Russia or China or both, and here they say when we end up fighting a war with one or the other or both, devastating cyber attacks on our power grids will be conducted. When your community is suddenly plunged into darkness, what is your plan? And when you think about it, people may think, well, I can get by without electricity at the home, right? How many here can get by without electricity in your home for a week or 2 weeks, right? You may have generators, you may have solar generators, you may have a wood stove, so you don't really need electricity to survive because you have something that will give you heat, etc., etc. You can survive at your home. That's not what's going to end people's lives, ladies and gentlemen. What would end people's lives during a serious cyber attack that takes down the grid is not that you won't have power at your home. It's that you won't be able to get gasoline. And if you can't get gasoline, neither can the truck drivers get diesel or gasoline, whatever they may use, to get the food to the supermarkets. Do you think that power plants will be able to run, etc., etc., etc.? Do you think that the local hospital is going to be able to operate in the same capacity that it did before? Do you think that the water plant is going to be able to operate at the same capacity and safety measures that it did before? That's what's really going to cause the demise of so many people, is that the systems that we are used to having right there, that we take for granted every day, like every once in a while, you'll have a solitary traffic light go out for no reason, really. You know, there's no power outage or anything, and we're pretty good about it. What do? We do what we're supposed to do. We treat that intersection as a four-way stop sign. So everyone stops, they let one go, etc., etc., etc. We're pretty good at it by now. But if you live in a big city or in a crowded city, have you ever seen that where a traffic light goes out and how much chaos that ensues? Well, think about everything else that will not be available to us if the grid does go down. That is why, ladies and gentlemen, you must prepare. Bloomberg is reporting that the U.S. power grids are facing heightened risks of cyber and physical attack as the contest nears. And one expert is warning that there is a 100 100% chance that critical infrastructure will eventually be breached at some point. So you have to be prepared. I'm not sitting here to tell you prepare for this, prepare for that, prepare for everything. Prepare to continue living. You need water, right? You need food. You need shelter. You need heat. If you're in an area like I am where I need heat, right? You need medical. You need safety. You need security. All of these things, ladies and gentlemen, are things that many people take for granted every day. But as soon as it's not available, you will know right away, man, I don't have this. I should have gotten it. You can get it right now. And Miss Stephanie Kurtz here says that there's a 100% chance that organizations that are critical to our infrastructure will be cyber attacked at some point in the future. No longer are the days, she says, when organizations can say we will never be breached. It's not an if, but a when. Are you getting prepped? And finishing this one off, I hope that what I've read so far is enough warning and that you take heed to those warnings to get prepared and continue to get prepared if you already are. FBI Director Christopher Wray said this Wednesday that China's hackers are targeting American critical infrastructure, including water treatment plants, pipelines, and other power grids, to be able to wreak havoc in the U.S. if Beijing ever decides to do so. So pretty much what they're doing is they're positioning all of their plants, be it cyber or even physical, with the intrusion from the southern border. And then when they give the order, they're all going to go to work at the same time, and it's going to cause havoc. Stack that pantry deep. All right. China's hackers are positioning on American infrastructure in preparation to wreak havoc and cause real world harm to American citizens and communities. And if when China decides the time has come to strike, Wray told lawmakers, they will strike. So what they say about real life, situations is that it's actually going to affect you in real life. When you hear that, okay, China's stealing property rights and stuff like that, intellectual property, right? When you hear that stuff, does it really affect you in real life? Does it really do anything against your standard of living right away? No. This is what they mean right here, that it will affect us in real life. So think of the things that you consume in real life every day, and those are the things that you need to stock up on and get stocked deep just in case something like this does happen. It's not me saying it. It's the FBI director and some other investigator here that are saying it, ladies and gentlemen. I'm just a messenger here, but I also want to serve as a warning, as telling you, hey, this makes sense. Make sure you get prepped up for this. And to show you that China is serious about what they say, here they warn the U.S. about crossing the red line. China has started warning the United States against crossing any red lines as Washington challenges China's core interests and suppresses the country's development, Chinese Foreign Minister Yi said. Blinken arrived in Beijing on Thursday from Shanghai, where he urged the Chinese government to provide a level playing field for U.S. firms in the country. Do you really think that they're going to do that, ladies and gentlemen? Janet Yellen just went over there the other day also trying to get China to reduce their production. I mean, when I saw that article, I kind of laughed. She went over there to tell them to not work as hard. We, the United States, unfortunately, are the ones that put China in the position that they're in by allowing them to enter the World Trade Organization and by giving them all of the goodies that we did with NAFTA during Clinton's time in office as president. But I digress. Bilateral ties face all kinds of disruptions. China's legitimate development rights have been unreasonably suppressed, and our core interests are facing challenges, Wang stressed, which tells me that they're not doing anything that the U.S. is telling them to do. And here they finish it off by saying Beijing can either cooperate with Washington and vice versa, or there will be confrontation. And then, ladies and gentlemen, the question is this: who do you think is in a better position for confrontation, the United States or China? Let me know in the comments, because I really could play devil's advocate on both sides on that question. California homeowners insured no more amid fire danger. And really, who could have seen that coming? It's just a way for land to be confiscated, in my opinion, that is. America's largest, and for some owners, the only option for home insuring is pulling back its operations in the state of California. Every business is leaving California. Who would want to do business in a communist state like that? In my opinion, that is. Leaving many with no more options to secure their property's value amid wildfire danger in the state reaching new highs. You know, this is what's great about the United States of America, ladies and gentlemen. If you want to live in a communist state where there's really not too much freedoms, go ahead and live there. California is a communist state, and the policies that they pass are terrible. They're terrible. I mean, to save the turtle, they divert fresh water to the ocean, and then they cut off the water to the farmers who need that water in order to grow actual food that not only feeds the people around there, but provides jobs for them and feeds a lot of the rest of the country. But I digress. But if you want to live there, you can. That's the thing about a free country. That's the thing about a capitalist country. In a capitalist country, if you want to go to a state that's communistic in nature, you can do so. But in a communistic country, there are no capitalist states that you can move to. You're stuck with what you have. Anyways, I digress. I went on a little rant there. I apologize. 72,000 state farm policies in the state of California will not be renewed. But why? And in many affected places, State Farm had been the only insurer for those homeowners, ladies and gentlemen. Most companies had been deemed that the locations are uninsurable due to dangers of wildfires whose flames have been fanned by climate change. Florida developer seeking $100 million for penthouse atop 66-story building in Brickell Key. Now, ladies and gentlemen, obviously climate change has not reached the coast of Florida, because you saw that this building here is right on the edge of the water. Again, go get your insurance from the same people that are insuring this building, because they must not worry about climate change. And here are the 5 methods, ladies and gentlemen. And of course, I will always leave all of these articles pinned on a comment so that you can come back and revisit them. 1, change the meaning of words. Take a look at Wikipedia. Take a look at Webster's Dictionary. You know, the meaning of inflation has been changed from its original meaning, which means that the money supply has been inflated, to now meaning that the price of goods have gone up. Number 2, invert everything that is normal. You hear me say it all the time. Today's opposite day, right? Number 3, make the right into a security threat. And this is for a very good reason. It's in order to make them be looked at like if they're not even human, ladies and gentlemen. It's a lot easier to smack someone over the head when you don't see them as a human being, as an equal, than it is if you did. The next step is to create an aura of danger around the right wing and conservative views, which will help the state justify any action taken against conservatives. Again, it will help the state take a look at these people, whatever group they're talking about at any given time, that they are not human, that they are lesser, so they will have no problem in doing whatever atrocities they want to do to them. Remember that thing that happened in the late 30s, early 40s of the 1900s? Remember that? Those people were looked at as less human, and look at what happened there. And number 4, we already know, the press goes on the attack. After the press goes on the attack, number 5, send the authorities and use lawfare. We all seen a great example of how lawfare can be used in order to punish someone that pretty much didn't do anything wrong. Get ready for oil prices to go up if this continues to happen. What I think that people are missing is that we have a world market in many things, pretty much in all commodities. Oil is a commodity. If Russia is not able to pump out as much oil as it did before, and other countries are not making up the difference, the price of oil will go up, which means what? That the price of living will go up as well. It's going to cost you a lot more to live with a higher oil price than what it does now. And if this keeps happening, and we do have some kind of a kinetic conflict in the Middle East with Russia or with China, ladies and gentlemen, I'm talking about the US, the price of oil is going to skyrocket. Not only that, remember about our strategic petroleum reserves, how it was drawn down to like less than half in order to accommodate a better oil price? Remember that here a year ago or so? You haven't heard too much about that. But not only can we not fill it at these prices, but if we do have some kind of a crisis, what are we going to use? The price of oil is going to continue to go up if this continues, and we won't be able to do anything about it because we have no oil left to pump into the system. If the 10-year yield goes above 5%, they're saying that we're going to have QE and massive inflation. I agree with that, but I would add a few more things. Not only will we have QE, quantitative easing, printing money out of thin air to put into the economy, which produces inflation, that's going to make the price of things go up. The price of living is going to go up. On top of the oil that I just talked about, it will go even higher if this is another layer that's on top of supply. Right? So that's going to go all up. Not only that, a lot of people are going to lose their jobs. We're going to have somewhat of a stagflationary environment as well. It's going to be pretty interesting, ladies and gentlemen, because usually when you have high unemployment, you have deflation. But at the same time, we're going to have inflation, and we're going to have people out of work. People are going to be losing their homes. It's going to be pretty bad. It's going to get a lot worse before it gets any better. And why is it? Because the 10-year, the rate for the 10-year is kind of like the one that sets the tone for the market, for the economy. When you get a mortgage, it's kind of like based on the 10-year. When you get a consumer loan, like a car debt or credit cards and stuff like that, that's kind of like based on the 10 years. It's like the benchmark rate that they use in order to run the economy as far as how much is money worth. How much you're going to have to pay for loans. So if it does surpass 5% and stays above that, things are not going to look any better than they do now. They're going to look a lot worse. And it's not just me saying this. The only way the Fed can possibly tame inflation is with interest rates so high that everything collapses. Jamie Dimon himself sees 8% interest rates being needed to tame America's Fed-fueled inflation beast. But with an economy addicted to low cost of borrowing, this would make loans unaffordable for entire sectors of the community, or the economy, excuse me, that can't do without. And like I said, if it makes it unaffordable, people are not going to participate in the economy because they can't afford it. What's going to happen to those people that are producing those things that we can't afford? They're going to go out of business and they're going to lose their jobs. This is AP Actual, ladies and gentlemen. I am AP Actual, okay? I'm not AI, but I told you that this is coming. There's going to be a time where you may not be able to tell the difference between someone that you've been following for years and maybe some AI that was generated. Let me tell you this right now, ladies and gentlemen. I will never do AI on this channel, meaning I will never present myself as Alaska Prepper, but it's AI instead, right? So you don't have to worry about that. So this school's athletic director was suspected of mishandling some school funds and was being investigated. So in order to retaliate, he just went ahead and created an AI recording of his boss, making him look like he didn't like people of other color. And if you come to this story, ladies and gentlemen, you'll be able to go ahead and listen to it right here. This is going to be used more and more. And I believe that the free market will come up with a solution. It will come up with a way to test to see whether it's AI or not. But we'll have to wait and see. You know what? I just thought of something. This is going to be allowed to become a big problem. You know what? Like people creating AI and making it look like it's other people doing it and stuff. And the reason why I think it's going to be allowed to become a big problem is because it'll be the perfect gateway for the government to say, hey, if you're going to use the internet, you're going to have some kind of a biometric or login that says it's you. And that's how they're going to make people have to log into the internet with their biometrics or a special password or some kind of a code or whatever that they issue you so that they know that it's actually you using the internet. Because right now I'm using the internet, right? But who knows that it's actually me? They just know that it's this IP address. Anyways, just thinking out loud on that. California's new minimum wage, a cure that exacerbates the sickness. When the government controls a minimum wage, they're pretty much telling the business what it is that they have to pay for a service that they know is not worth what they're paying for. So why would they? They're just going to make their current employees that are receiving that higher minimum wage work harder if they want to stay employed. They're not going to hire anyone else, and they're going to end up getting robots in order to fill those spots that they can't employ because they just can't afford it. On April 1st, the state instituted, California that is, a $20 minimum wage for fast food workers, the highest in the U.S. With California's absurdly high cost of living, the policy appeared to make life more manageable for low-income residents. Working at McDonald's was never ever meant to be a job so that you can support a family. It is a low-skilled job so that children, I remember when I was 14, 15, 16 years old, my very first job was working at a McDonald's. I worked there for like 2 weeks and then I broke my arm and I had to quit because it was a really bad break. But anyways, it was a job back then, at least, where children were hired for the most part. And it was a way to teach you as a child to get to work on time, to have a little bit of a work ethic, and to give you the opportunity to maybe handle a little bit of your own finances, make a few bucks, maybe put a little bit in savings, etc., etc. It wasn't meant for you to support a family. Yes, back then there were like the managers back then were like, adults, and they were more than likely, in my opinion, supporting a family on the job. But that was after them working there for years and working their way up the ladder to become a manager. I digress. And here is the economic problem with a minimum wage. The counterproductivity of a minimum wage is demonstrated by a simple analysis of the labor market. Companies purchase labor from workers through a wage. The more value a worker adds to a company, the more they will be paid. The more value that a worker adds to a company, the more that they will be paid. If employers are allowed to set wages freely and the labor market is competitive, workers can expect to be paid close to their added value to the company. They can't be paid more than what they add in value to the company, but they can be paid close to what they add in value to the company, because the company is a company in order to make a profit for its shareholders or for the owners, president, etc. A minimum wage hijacks this process. If a worker is worth $15 an hour to an employer, but a $20 minimum wage is introduced, the company will no longer hire the worker, and both parties are harmed. A $20 wage floor means that workers must at least add that much value to the company. For many laborers, this means saying goodbye to their industry and hello to unemployment. Again, the government has no place in saying how much value you add to a company. They're not running the company. But the company can say, well, I can afford to pay you this much because you add this much value to our company. So they can afford to pay it. But if the government just says, hey, we're going to go ahead and say that you have to pay this, and you're like, yeah, but they're not adding that much value to the company. Just because you're saying that they're going to get paid $20 an hour doesn't mean that they give me $20 an hour's worth of labor. So now I'm going to have to raise my prices synthetically. So now you're making people pay more for things that are not valued that much. They're going to stop buying it. People are going to get fired, lose their livelihoods, unfortunately. And these restaurants are just going to go ahead and buy some robots. That's going to be it for the news segment of this video, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to go ahead and leave behind a little bit of a commentary with a little trip that we took outside of the North Star Borough, miles and miles and miles north of Fairbanks. And this is what I kind of like to call the interior, meaning that in these areas that you'll be seeing here, usually there's no taxes on property if you buy property out there, but there's no services whatsoever. And there are still a few people that live out there full time off grid. And as you can see, ladies and gentlemen, we picked a beautiful day to go on a nice little ride. This is what Alaska looks like during the melt, right? During the transition from snow to spring is what I would say. And you can see that most of the trees are bare, at least the trees that bear leaves. And what happens here is that once it gets warm enough outside and we get a nice spring shower of rain, the leaves come on the trees like overnight. So like overnight, you'll see all the trees really nice and green. And I would have to say that that's the most beautiful time of the year. That there is the last gas station that we know of that's just north of Fox before we continue our road trip outside of the North Star Borough. As you can see, there's still a few houses here and there, and they continue sporadically throughout this route, even all the way outside of the borough. this here is called the Whitefish Campground, and I do believe that the state services this area, and we're probably going to be looking into doing a little camping trip here later on in the year. Well, all right, ladies and gentlemen, let's call it good for today. I thank you very much, especially if you are still here in this part of the video. I hope that you have a great day today. I hope that you've had a great weekend thus far and a great week ahead. God bless every one of you. God bless this great nation, the United States of America. I'm Alaska Prepper. I am out.